one more second. Thank you. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Cobb County Board of Elections and Registration meeting. The time is 3:03 and the meeting is now called to order. At this time, I would like to invite Deputy Dulworth to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Our first order of business is the approval of the agenda. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda as presented today? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Great. All those in favor, please signify with your vote. The motion carries 5-0. We now have come to the public comment portion of our meeting. Moving forward, this segment will be facilitated by our legal counsel. This approach is consistent with the way the County Commission manages public comment, and we're going to adopt that same model here. I'm going to turn things over to Mr. White.
Thank you, Chairwoman Mosbacher. I'm going to go over the reminders about public comment process in a moment, but I did ask Chairwoman Mosbacher if I could, just for a moment of personal privilege here, really just to say thank you to our outgoing board members. Some of you may have come today expecting to see new members appointed, but just because of our board's enabling legislation, those have to be on file for 30 days. The names have to be on file for 30 days before new members can take a seat. So we have our board as it's been constituted for the last couple of years, and some of these folks have been on for 4 years. So that I'm pleased that they're here for one more meeting, because I want to specifically thank Ms. Silas and Mr. Bruning for their service to the board. And just to say that the two of you joined the board, or in your case, rejoined the board during a tumultuous time in our country and in our community for elections is a little bit of an understatement. So in the 40-year history of the Cobb Elections Board, I don't think there's been a board that's had to operate under the microscope that you have. So I just want to say thank you. You both of you have handled it with the utmost of class and professionalism, and I just want to thank you. You've both been a pleasure to work with. This whole board has worked together, including staying up into the wee hours of the morning and not seeing our families for a day or two on occasion. And I just thank you for all your dedication and all your service. And as we move into the public comment portion of the meeting, I encourage everyone here to take this board as an example of how to conduct yourselves. These board members have dedicated themselves to the difficult work of overseeing elections in Cobb and have done it in a way that fosters respect and collaboration. For the vast majority of issues that this board deals with, they are on the same page and they work seamlessly. But on the rare occasions when there is a difference of opinion, and sometimes that's a very strong difference of opinion on something, they've handled it with civility and respect. Even when they strongly disagree, they refrain from attacking each other or from doing things, getting into personal issues, and they handle it in a way that moves elections and registration in Cobb County forward. So I encourage the members of the public here to follow their example today. I do want to remind people, and I'm not going to give this speech every time, but we have a larger crowd, and this is the first time I'm going to be handling public comment, at least for this board. And so this public comment portion is what's called a limited public forum. And that's a public forum that's created for a limited purpose. And in that instance, this is for members of the public to come and express their views on the subject of elections and registrations in Cobb County. We're not going to restrict viewpoints on speech, any restrictions in a limited public forum, and I'm not going to give you like a case law lecture or a free speech constitutional lecture, but Any restrictions on speech in this forum have to be reasonable in light of the purpose served by the forum, which is to conduct the business of elections, and have to be viewpoint neutral. So we're not going to censor viewpoints. We're not going to stop people from saying what they feel about elections or registration, but we're going to ask you to use speech and to use conduct that don't disrupt this meeting. And, I'm just personally, a lot of times comments will start with people saying, I've lived in Cobb County for 20 years, or I've been a citizen here, I've moved here, 30 years. I've lived in Cobb County my whole life. I grew up here, aside from 7 glorious years in Athens. This is home to me, and I just want to say that it doesn't matter whether you've been here longer than me, 50 years, or if you came here 6 weeks ago. You have a right to come before this board and express your opinion, and this board values your opinion, and they made that clear to me. This board, unlike school boards and some other boards that are statutory creation, this board doesn't have to have public comment. That's not in the enabling legislation. It's not in the election code. They don't have to have it. They want to have it because they want people to come in and be able to share their opinions. And so that's why they're offering this opportunity to the public. And we would much prefer to have a productive conversation with the community. We want to have, I know this board likes to hear both sides of issues at their meetings. And so we would just ask today, that you would, approach this with the decorum and the civility that I know this county's seen for a long time. My firm has been representing the board since I was in elementary school over at Westside. So we have a lot of experience, and I can say this board, there were times in the past when this board met in a tiny room and no one showed up for public comment, and there was no flag for a pledge. And I've served in times when no one cared how the board was appointed, and times when we had one delegation, and times when we had 2 delegations, apparently. And so things change over time, but what has never changed is every board I've had the pleasure of work with and my firm has worked with has done things in a professional manner, and they've handled it civilly. And I would ask that you bring that today to the public comment and every time. And so just going back to the actual specific rules, the way we've done this in the past, at least in the last few years, has to allow 12 slots for in-person and 12 slots for virtual. And so because we didn't get our full 12 slots virtual filled, we only had we had 7 people sign up virtually, but then I think a number of those people have now showed up in person. Instead of taking spots away from those people, and there have been times in the past when we asked those folks to just step outside and join the WebEx, because that's where they signed up. We're just going to add those people to the end of the in-person, or I don't know what order I'll go in, but I'll probably just move down both lists and have them come and speak. But anytime we get up over the 10 or 12 number, this board has business to conduct, so we take the normal 5-minute limit, which is long by any stretch for any county in the metro area, and we shorten it down to 3 so that everyone has a chance to speak, but this board can still get to the important business that they're conducting. So with all of that said, I'm going to keep time. I'm going to try to rotate between in-person and virtual, but I think we're now down to maybe only 1 or 2 virtual. And so then I'll just move down the list as we go. And if I miss somebody or mispronounce your name, I apologize. I'm going to get to everybody on the list, and I'll let you know when your time's up. I'll let you know that your time's up, okay? So today, I think we're going to start with Christine McKinnell.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your time today. I moved from East Cobb to my current residence 5 years ago. Prior to that, the property was vacant for almost a year. And since then, our home has been receiving official election material from the Board of Elections for the 5 years I've been there, for 2 people. I have returned to sender. I have returned to sender multiple times. I have also physically brought it into the Board of Elections office 3 times. 2 of the items we received were those big FedEx overnight envelopes that I know were not inexpensive, so that hurt my heart a little bit that money was spent that I had to turn in. So I am here about just cleaning up the voter rolls and how important I think that is. I'm also a poll manager, so I brought them in while I was going to my training, and we did just receive another one. So I think that's very important, valid. If there's another process I should take to stop them from coming, I did contact this person. They do live out of state, but I'm still getting their mail. And I only get Cobb Board of Elections. So thank you for your time. I'm happy to leave this with someone after, but I just want to stop this from coming to my house. Thank you.
All right, our next speaker, I think signed up virtually, but is here in person, I believe, is Matt Stickle here? Stickle?
Good afternoon. My name is Matt Segal. I do serve on the Transit Advisory Board, and I'm here on my personal capacity. First off, I want to thank each and every one of you. I know that, first off, y'all are volunteers. Y'all, spend your time, energy, and so much effort to run the elections here, and I know it's not easy. Just some of the outside energy, some of the microscope that you guys do your service in. So I just want to start off saying thank you. Also, I do appreciate how transparent you guys are. I don't think there's any other board out there that does both in person and virtual. And so I know I did sign up virtually. I didn't know if I was able to get off of work today or not. But being able to have that option is something that no other board in this county has. And so I do appreciate that. And also that you guys are live streaming this publicly. There's a few other boards here in the county that no longer allow that. And I think the safety and the strength of our democracy depends on that. I do, with that, and how you guys are in charge of a, free, fair, and transparent elections, also accessible elections, I think is very important. And when I look at accessibility, one of the main barriers to elections is transportation. There's no doubt I am a transportation advocate, a public transit advocate. And every year during early voting, I look to see what the connectivity is to the early voting locations. And very often there's parts of the county that not only do not have transit service at all, but also one-seat rides. It's very important for people to just have a simple one-seat ride to go from their house to wherever their destination is. If there's a transfer, if they have to wait from bus to bus, if they have to cross the street, any of those barriers create barriers that can hold somebody back from elections, from participating in voting. And so looking at those early voting sites and giving people the access and the mobility they need to be able to vote is very important. And right now the county is doing a microtransit pilot in South Cobb. They're looking at doing some more microtransit in North Cobb. But I think that enabling that microtransit and really honing in on public transit, whether it's microtransit or the fixed routes, it's very important to give people that access and be able to participate in voting. So just as each of you continue to do, and serve in your role and continue to do your job, I would just look at that barrier and overcoming that barrier of transportation to enable as many people to be able to vote and take part in our democracy as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker on the list is Andy Kingery.
Good afternoon, Board. This is my first time speaking before you, so forgive me if I'm nervous. I want to tell you that I appreciate your efforts and what you're going to be doing over the next few years as you pass on to the new members. Nobody in this room thinks anybody's getting rich sitting on that dais. We know you're giving and volunteering time. My angle on elections is I love the process. I try to get involved in the process. And many of you know, and Michael can attest, I look at all of the processes in an election, not just poll watching, not just observing vote counting, but how the machines are prepared in advance and how the audits go down. All of this is very important. In that is transparency, and as a nonpartisan board, I appreciate you guys keeping things open and transparent, and that hasn't always been the case. Party politics has reared its head with this group in the past, and I'm going to ask that you look carefully and make sure that doesn't happen again. The last meeting I attended, there was a surprise vote for leadership. No notice, nobody knew. There are very few people here to observe it happen. It may not be wrong, but it certainly doesn't look transparent, and it's something that I think needs to be considered. Since the meeting, 2 new members have been selected to be on your board. They were put forth without consultation, without consideration from the Republican members of the state delegation. Again, this may not be wrong, but it certainly does not look transparent and bipartisan. Look, I appreciate everything that the elections office does. I've, like I said, observed a lot. I've seen mostly, overwhelmingly, great people doing great work. So it appalls me that some people are questioning the way money is spent, the way processes happen there, and it has come to the point where I'm going to ask you, and I will bring this to the Board of Commissioners, I'm going to ask you for a full, independent, outside audit of the elections office. Thank you.
The next speaker, I believe, is online, and that's Mary Stein. No? The only one online is Sally? Okay, well, she's a little further down the list, so I'm going to keep going down the people that signed up virtually, but that are here. So I think the next person who signed up virtually who is here is Susan Radolovaki. Hopefully I didn't botch that too bad.
Don't worry, happens all the time. Good afternoon. I am a Cobb County poll manager. I'm also attending Cobb 101, the county's citizen engagement training program. I care deeply about government accountability, and that's why I wanted to speak to you today. Last month, according to the bylaws, you elected new officers. The date of the election was determined by the bylaws. During the meeting, when there were questions about timing or process, you consulted the bylaws. And when necessary, the board attorney explained the bylaws. The process of the election followed the bylaws. Every member voted as per the bylaws, and the majority ruled as required by the bylaws. Those bylaws were not a secret or a surprise to any of you. Every one of you agreed to be bound by them when you joined the board. Similarly, you agreed to abide by Robert's Rules of Order, and Rule 61 says a question that has been decided cannot and should not be relitigated in a subsequent meeting. So, whatever manufactured outrage there has been online to the contrary, nothing about the election last month was scandalous or unethical, and it should not be reconsidered. It was voted, it was resolved. You had an obligation to follow the rules, and thankfully you did. It was democracy in action, and that's good government. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Elizabeth Hendrickson.
Good afternoon. My name is Elizabeth Hendrickson, and I would like to thank the members of this board and all of the election staff for successfully running 5 elections in 6 months. The recent primary, runoff, and special elections were smooth, accessible, and secure, from the LNA testing to the risk limiting audit after. And they're already hard at work on qualifying and setting up for the PSC and the municipal elections that are set for November. I appreciate so much the openness to feedback of this board and of the election staff as well. I would also like to thank all of you for supporting as much access to voting as possible, making 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. available for as much of the advanced in-person voting period as possible, and having both Saturdays and both Sundays during that period available creates the flexibility to ensure that all voters, regardless of work schedules and other responsibilities, can cast their ballots securely and conveniently. Since voter turnout is often an issue, particularly in odd years, I would suggest having some text reminders or push notifications to remind people about the election in time for them to research candidates, and then again closer to Election Day. These could share the times and locations for the advanced in-person voting, as well as the races that are on the ballot. These would be easy for recipients to share with friends and family, which might help spread the information even further. The board also, echoing Susan, the board has clearly recognized also that their bylaws concerning the election of officers were a little bit vague. The proposed revision would clarify the language to address this problem. The appointment of the 2 new board members broke no laws or rules. It may have broken tradition in response to some members of the delegation trying to break rules and norms in a way they thought would be favorable to them by separating the Senate and House delegations. The current delegation has been quite fair-minded when making appointments. One example, 2 members of the Water Board who were reappointed were Republican. This is not about overall hyperpartisanship on the part of the delegation. It's about representation of different areas on the county and all voters. Thank you so much for keeping public comment and for listening and for your service.
All right. I believe our next virtual speaker is Diana Spangler. Is she on now, CP? Ms. Spangler, can you hear me? Diana Spangler? Can you try to unmute if you're online? Can you say something, Ms. Spangler? Okay, what we'll do is we'll move on actually to Ms. Grubbs. Is Sally Grubbs online?
Can you hear me now?
Is this Diana or
It's
is this?
Sally.
Oh, hey, Sally.
Hey.
Yeah,
This is
sure. No, you
Sally.
can go ahead.
Okay. This is Sally Grubbs, and I am a longtime Cobb County resident, just like Mr. White. And the reason that I'm speaking up today is, number one, I would like to commend Chairwoman Tori Silas for her service on the board. Despite us, I'm on the Republican side of the aisle, she's on the Democrat side of the aisle, but I found her to be a joy to work with. And even though we might have different opinions, we found a way to work together with mutual respect and dignity, and I appreciate her service. So thank you, Ms. Silas, for what you have done to move elections forward in Cobb County. It can be done. That said, I find that what happened with the election of the chair to be just totally hyper-partisanship. It was rammed through when you knew you had 2 new members coming on the board that are going to be serving without them having a voice in who they would like to see as the chair. Chances are it would have probably turned out the same. However, it's a disgrace, really, that our delegation did not handle things in a more fair way because of all the boards. We hear people talk about the boards and their functions, and when there's a Republican-controlled board or what have you, or as with the Cobb Commission, elections are nonpartisan. Elections should be fair for everyone. And elections should be done, and I agree with what Mr. Kingery said, there should be a full and complete audit of the Cobb County Board of Elections from top to bottom. We are not getting accurate information. We are not getting timely reports. And very clearly, to the point of Ms. McKinnell, our voter rolls are a mess. And I would like to see someone with the Cobb Board of Elections compare the number of citizens who are registered to vote versus the voters. There's data that we need, and at every turn, we are blocked and we are prevented from getting the data that we need to ensure free and fair elections. That's a nonpartisan issue, and I would urge the chairwoman the new chairwoman, Ms. Mosbacher, to please initiate that audit. If this is nonpartisan for you, and if this is about fair elections, then put your money where your mouth is. Let's see that audit. Thank you very much.
The next speaker, in-person speaker, will be Mike Benz. Mr. Benz, you can come on up.
Thank you. Thank you to the board, and I'm glad to see that things are still functioning well. Y'all have done this under duress for the last couple of years at least, and I personally appreciate how you function and work together, even, again, when there's been disagreement. So thank you from that perspective. And a little bit of a reply to the previous speaker. We all knew this would be a meeting where people would show up because of, I think, in the MDJ, where it was said that fireworks were in the forecast. And so it didn't say anything about the need for an audit or anything like that. I don't have an objection to that. But I think that's a little bit of a red herring. There are no other issues to latch onto at this point, and so that's what they're going to go to, is there's some sort of financial malfeasance going on. The audit will take place. It will cost Cobb County money to conduct the audit. If it's done, that's fine. It'd be interesting to see what the outcome of that might be, and if it substantiates that you're doing the work that we think you're doing, then I would hope that that would eliminate this particular item on the opposition's agenda. In regard to the actions that you have, I was here at the meeting where the quorum and where, again, maybe it wasn't a particularly courteous way to conduct things, but it was not, even as Ms. Hathaway said in the paper, none of it was illegal or against the rules, but I guess it could have been considered maybe a little discourteous to not have done it in a different way, but that's different from being unethical. So these positions, again, are appointed, not elected, and the board actions are legal. They're within the rules for appointed boards. The board actions are not unethical, but they do irritate the people who would prefer to be in the majority. There's no doubt about that. In 2024, the same forces attempted to change state board rules in the middle of the election, which was rejected by a Republican Georgia Supreme Court. And those same forces submitted numerous invalid voter challenges claiming voter fraud and not managing voter rolls properly. And they submitted these invalid voter challenges to slow down the function of the county board, which again resulted in additional cost to Cobb County taxpayers. And then in 2024, the state elections board spent its time and resources, that's money, illegally trying to change election laws instead of investigating over 350 claims into possible election fraud and malfeasance, their primary legal responsibility. This is the highest number of unresolved backlog
Mr.
cases
Vance, your time is up.
by any state board in Georgia history, if you want to talk about malfeasance.
Let's try one more time to see if Ms. Spangler is on virtual at this point. Is there, see if you can you see anybody?
I'm told she's on. We're not sure why she's not able to.
Okay. Ms. Spangler, can you speak up and see if we can hear you?
Yes, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you. Your time is starting right now.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. I am Diana Spangler, and I am with the Voting for Attention with the Paulding County Democratic Committee. I am here today to support fair, ethical elections without politics or battles for power. They leave out the voice of the people and distract from the mission of the board. The board, in carrying its duties, they are entrusted by the people, needs to focus on striking an appropriate balance and maintaining integrity while keeping elections free of fraud and carrying on the important task of keeping elections accessible to the residents of the county. This includes ensuring individuals with disabilities, individuals who are homebound, individuals in rural areas of your county, and ensuring that they have access to convenient voting sites and have accessible information to other methods. I want to thank the board members and the poll workers for performing ethical and professional elections. Please continue to provide flexibility to the residents of the county by keeping accessible hours for voting from 7 to 7 and allowing for allows for commuting residents to visit the polling locations after work. In addition, continue to provide 2 Sunday poll access for all voters. Please consider county-wide voter education and text and push notifications. For example, information about election notice of the purging of inactive voting registrations, processes to request mail-in ballots, and timelines, and so on. Thank you to the members, and please continue to provide accessibility for the voters in your county. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Spangler. The next, we've now, I believe, gone through all the people that had signed up virtually, so I'm just going to move down the rest of the in-person list. The next speaker is Hugh Norris.
Hugh Norris here, 27-year voting resident of Cobb County, Vietnam-era veteran, and a very concerned citizen regarding the blatantly obvious destructive trends in our nation, state, and county. Ms. Mosbacher, you sitting there in the middle chair, I've called you out numerous times over the past months, extending into years, over your visual disrespect for our form of government and flag. I say that as I've observed you remaining planted in your seat, sometimes smirking, as our Pledge of Allegiance is recited by your colleagues and the meeting attendees. I've wondered previously if you might have allegiances elsewhere. And then, lo and behold, for the first time, you stood for our pledge at last month's meeting. But your hands were clasped below your waist, not the required hand over the heart. I'm informed you did not visually recite the pledge. I wonder if you had your fingers crossed. I still wonder where your allegiances are. Was your act last month a political stunt meant to dupe those citizens who remain in deep slumber and unaware of what is happening right here in Cobb County? Question mark. I think it was a stunt. It preceded what I consider to be a coup of this board by you and members Bruning and Efrat. On a positive note, while I often disagreed with the political positions of Chair Silas, I found her to be honest and ethical. She conducted this board with integrity. Thank you, Chair Silas.
The next speaker is Christine Rosman.
Hello, Christine Rosman here. I totally agree with what you, Norris, had to say, and I also, on the different side of Tori Silas with politically, but you ran the board perfectly, professionally. You're intelligent, competent, qualified, critical thinker, and I very much respect that you have always respected the entire population. Thank you. And I really kicked myself that I wasn't here for last month's because I hear it was a real charade, and I think that, you know, I think everybody was like, whoa, somebody stood for the flag, and so I guess it was more of a calculated move because I was thinking maybe you got shamed into it, Ms. Mosbacher, and but I guess there's a reason why you decided to go ahead and do that. And Daniel White, you said about, you know, things change. The Constitution doesn't, and being ethical doesn't. You can be legal without being ethical. And I think that that's what we saw glaring at us when two of you decide to vote yourselves in as the new chair and vice chair, and I find it almost comical because I haven't heard two peeps out of either one of you for like the last couple of years coming to these meetings. So I think that that was very interesting that all of a sudden you're running the show. And so, but I'm sure that there's something in it for you. Anyway, as far as this board, there's a reason. So when you say, oh, we're going to be transparent and we're going to be all this, and you know what? You're not transparent. And when you're not transparent, this is why we don't trust you. Okay, this is why the citizens are like, wow, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't seem ethical. And, you know, it doesn't smell ethical, look ethical, taste ethical. It's like it ain't ethical. So, but if you want to, you know, people are waking up all across the country, and regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, people are waking up to say, you know what, we don't want to look like New York City. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rossman. The next speaker is Leroy Imkin.
Thank you, Tori, for your term as chair. I am not unhappy. I'm sorry. I am unhappy not happy. I am unhappy. It is with firm conviction that I demand the immediate removal of Jennifer Moschbacher from the Cobb County Board of Elections and from her role as chair. Her repeated refusal to stand for or recite the Pledge of Allegiance, she did it again today, at public meetings is not a harmless personal choice. It is a deliberate affront to one of the most sacred traditions in our civic life. The pledge is not mere ceremony. It is a solemn tribute to the ideals of liberty and justice, to the Constitution that govern us, and to the countless Americans who have fought and sacrificed their lives under our flag, Ms. Moschbacher. As someone who has been on the front lines in ensuring election integrity, I find Ms. Moschbacher's actions especially troubling. The role of the Board of Elections demands leaders who exemplify respect for the Republic and its values. Her conduct sends a dangerous message that our symbols, our history, and the sacrifices that sustain our freedom can be casually dismissed. Such disregard erodes public trust at a time when faith in our elections is already fragile, Ms. Moschbacher. Furthermore, the current state of the Board of Elections has been directly worsened by Senator Ed Setzler's deliberate procrastination in fulfilling his duty to nominate 2 members to the board, a task he should have completed over a month ago. This inexcusable delay has opened the door for weakened oversight, compromised decision-making, and conditions ripe for fraudulent elections. Equally troubling is that Mary Hathaway, chair of the Cobb GOP, was fully aware of this dereliction of duty, yet failed to take any decisive action to remedy the situation. This is the epitome of failed leadership and political negligence, a shameful display of procrastination and inaction at a moment when the integrity of our elections hangs in the balance. Leadership is measured not by titles or talking points, but by timely, principled action. And both Senator Setzler, Chair Hathaway, Chair Moschbacher have failed that test. By keeping Ms. Moschbacher in this position, the board signals tolerance for behavior that is fundamentally incompatible with the responsibilities of protecting and administering fair elections. It reflects not just on her, but on the leadership that allows such disrespect to stand unchallenged. Cobb County deserves leaders who rise above personal ideology to honor the principles that unite us as Americans. I call upon you to take immediate action to remove Ms. Moschbacher and to reaffirm as quickly as possible, Ms. Moschbacher.
The next speaker is Mr. Cameron, and I'll remind the audience that the disruption to the meeting rule also applies to the audience as well as to the speaker. So you're welcome to voice your response, but let's keep it within limits of not disrupting the meeting. You've done good so far. All right, Ms. Cameron.
Hey there. First of all, I wanted to thank you for the work that you do. I know you put a lot of time into this, and I really appreciate that, especially when we've had 5 elections in the last 6 months. That's a lot to keep going. I'd like to also thank you for making voting more accessible to as many people as possible with the 7 a.m., 7 p.m. times and Saturday and Sunday early voting. I've been a benefactor of that, and I appreciate that. I'd like to make 2 suggestions to you in the vein of making voting more accessible. I'd like to suggest that since we have 51,000 young people now registered at KSU, that we have an early voting site at KSU on the campus. Those young people are becoming, this is probably their first time voting, and to make that accessible and easy for them, hopefully we will get them established in the idea of voting and going on to do that the rest of their lives. I'd also like to suggest that a problem with poll workers, I know there always is a terrible problem getting enough poll workers, but if they could make it so that you worked shifts instead of 12, 14-hour days, that perhaps more people would be able to do that. I know at age 70, I can't do a 14-hour day, and I would never volunteer for it because I can't do a 12, 14-hour day anymore. But if it was a 6, 7, 8-hour day, I could handle that. So I think you would get a lot more people involved in being poll workers if the day was split. Just 2 more ideas for you all to think about. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
The next speaker is Ann White.
Hello. First, I want to say I'm not here for a personal attack on anyone. Instead, I'm here to thank you for doing a great job in your hard work for keeping our elections safe and fair, which is very important to me. I really appreciate the work you've done in the recent numerous elections. I'm not being loud enough? That's never happened. Okay. How about now? But I do have some concerns or requests. I'm very much for increasing voter opportunities for all registered voters, including, as Ms. Cameron mentioned, students and staff on KSU campus, which just makes sense, and increasing early voting times, longer hours of 7 to 7, and opportunities on weekends, especially on Sundays when more people who work, especially families who both parents work. And as Fran mentioned, I would consider volunteering to work the poll elections during elections if the shifts weren't so long. I can't do that early morning too late at night. Too old for that, and also don't have any desire. I appreciate public comments being a part of these meetings. I hope you are allowed to continue to do them, preferably without personal attacks. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. White. The next speaker is Lyndon Salter. Sure. Yes. Just a reminder, I'm probably saying your name wrong. I'm saying Lyndon Salter. Whether I say your name right or wrong, if you'll give your name when you come up, because we want to make sure we got it right for the record.
Hi, I'm Lyndon Salter, and I'm a student here at KSU and have recently moved to Cobb. As a student and a part-time cook, I'm here to advocate for policies that would help people like me to participate in elections and to have our voice heard. My schedule can be hectic and unpredictable at times. Though this semester I should not have much trouble, I have had trouble in the past making it to polling locations in time to vote. The only reason I was able to vote in the previous Public Service Commissioner primary and runoff this past summer was because the polling location was open until 7 on election day, and I was able to show up after my work shift at about 6:30 because I could not make it before 6 because that's when I got off my shift that day. I am far from the only one who struggles with this. Having early voting open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., as well as having both Sundays as an option, will give more opportunity to those juggling time-consuming responsibilities a better chance to have their voice heard. Also, having an option to vote on campus for people at KSU would be beneficial for especially students to be able to vote in between classes without having time to travel off campus, which could mean they have to choose between whether they get to vote in the election and have their voice heard or being late for a class that they need to be on time for their education. And many of those students don't have cars and don't really have access to really travel off campus without having to make a whole plan of carpools and stuff. So it's a real struggle for some students on campus to vote. And finally, the biggest obstacle is people being aware that elections are happening. A lot of people weren't aware of the special election we're having for the Public Service Commissioner until the week right before. And so having a notification system would be very helpful for people so they can know ahead of time, so they can have time to research, as well as be able to make it fit into their schedule. Thank y'all so much for this opportunity to speak, and thank y'all for all that y'all do.
Thank you, Mr. Salter. The next speaker is, and we've now moved to handwritten, so I'm hoping I can read this. I believe it's Marcus Jean Francis, or Franklin? Marcus Jean Francis, maybe? Jean-Francois, I should, with a daughter who speaks fluent French and Haitian Creole, I want to do better.
Good afternoon. My name is Marcus Jean-Francois. I stand before you today not only as an American citizen, but as a poll watcher, a volunteer, and a member of the election integrity team who worked during the last election. I'm also a proud leader of the MAGA grassroots movement in Georgia. I'm here to tell you today that Cobb County deserves better. Each of you are a leader. You represent us. We, the people of the Cobb County, choose you because we entrust in you. Moral value, quality, everything. For you to lower yourself with election in secret is behind your value. I came here for two things only. Because I think the most important thing in this country, the flag is one of them. If you don't respect the flag, if you don't value the flag, you don't belong here. None of you belong here if you cannot do that. Because the flag represents us, represents the country. People die for it. We live in because of people who die for it. If you cannot stand up for it, leave. You don't belong here. You don't. That's why I applaud. I see that the other day on YouTube. They be by herself, they be Fisher by herself, standing up for the flag, and all of you sitting down with smoking face. This is a shame. Shame on you. Shame. No, you have to do better. You have to do better. And I appreciate there's some evolution right now. Maybe it's comical, everybody stand up right now, but you have to believe in that flag because your country believes in you. Second part, I heard that election 2 weeks or last week. I don't know, but if you represent integrity, me, I believe in that. That's why I'm volunteer. I work about 40 hours, almost 5 days a week, just volunteer for election integrity because I think the foundation of our nation based on that. If you represent Cobb County election, you have to be intact. You cannot do those things anymore. That's not good. No, please, Miss Jennifer Mosbacher, you not belong here.
Jean-Francois, your time's up.
You not belong here. Do the election again. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
The next speaker is Ajay Herndon.
You got it right, too. Ajay Herndon. Thank you. And I want to thank everyone here on the board and the team that works on our elections. We appreciate the transparency. We appreciate all the work that you do and giving us this forum to be able to speak in relation to any concerns that we may have in our electional voting process. And also, thank you for running 5 elections. I know it's not easy, and we really appreciate it. I'm speaking today because I really want to advocate and continue to advocate for polling from 7 to 7. It is very important for working adults such as myself to be able to participate in our voting process. And 7 to 7 allows me to, despite whatever I got going on during the day, to ensure that my voice is heard. So please do continue to do that. I also want to echo the sentiments of one of my colleagues here, or one of my friends here, Matt, as it relates to microtransit. It is very important that we provide pathways to people to be able to participate and vote. A lot of people, lack of vehicles is a barrier of entry towards voting, unfortunately, in our state. So providing microtransit, or at least providing areas to which that can be more accessible, will just help people to participate in our voting process. I've had the privilege and the ability to work as a poll watcher and poll curing. And I need to echo some of the other sentiments as it relates to the shifts as working on the polls. That's a long day. And I think that will really help people to want to do this and to want to do this type of work, is to add more shifts, but also truncate them and make them shorter so that people can participate without having to do that heavy lift of a 12-hour shift. That's a lot for people to do. Also, I want to echo sentiments in relation to getting a polling location on KSU's campus for the staff and the students there as well. I know that could be very difficult for a lot of our students, and we want people to participate as early as possible in our processes here. So again, that's all I got. I want to say thank you for y'all continued work and y'all transparency and commitment to the people here in Cobb. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Herndon. The next speaker is Marissa Pyle.
All the way from the back. Hi, board members. My name is Marissa Pyle. I am with All Voting is Local. I am here to support a plan by the board to provide equitable and accessible voting hours this fall, and to ensure that location availability, especially during early voting, is equitable. This means holding early voting on both Sundays, as Cobb has done in the past, and continuing the practice of accessible hours for early voting. Last year, Cobb set a great example by offering early voting from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., which is incredibly important for allowing people to find a time that works for them to cast a ballot, particularly, as folks have mentioned, for people with children or those who work long hours. Having times in the early hours or after work can be crucial. Sundays are also essential for this kinds of access, as we've heard. We've seen hundreds of voters use this Sunday voting, and they deserve to continue casting their votes. And as one of the largest counties in the state, maintaining that access is incredibly important. I have also served as a poll worker in the past, and I, first of all, have full appreciation for the long hours that can entail. But I have had people come in at 6:59 p.m. who would not have otherwise been able to vote. And so maintaining hours as accessibly and expansively as we can for those voters is so crucial. I know that conducting elections means long days and lots of detail-oriented work. Because of that, I also want to take the time to recognize the good work that the Elections Department has done this year already, conducting 5, which is an incredibly large number of elections in what is supposed to be an off year, and preparing for the November general election as well. The Elections Department and Tate Fall, as the Elections Director, has done great work and continues to do so. And so I'm asking the board to continue supporting their work and to continue to work to ensure that you have and deploy the necessary resources to serve Cobb's voters. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Robbie Mitchell, or Robbie Mitchell? Have I got that right?
Thank you to the board for your service and for facilitating, like everyone else has said, many folks have said, 5 elections during an off year. That is quite the undertaking. I recently had the pleasure of attending an event last week that commemorated the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II. It also happened to be the 80th anniversary of only one of 23 married couples who've been married for 80 years globally. It was a wonderful event, and it was a joy to hear the comments made by the gentleman who was the veteran and his wife who also served during the World War II. So I want to remind many folks here that 12 years prior, Germany had its last free election until 1990. I think that many folks here are disappointed that we still have elections, and they seem to prefer the fact that we would limit access to voting, limit who can vote, and not have them at all and go through the trouble of having those elections. I think that maybe some folks here might want to consider earning the vote of the residents of Cobb County instead of trying to limit their access to vote by restraining how many hours we have polling places open or where those people can vote. Thank you for ensuring access to voting and ensuring that everyone can vote during extended hours, as others have said. And I implore the rest of my concerned citizens to be as concerned about the construction of concentration camps across our country, such as Alligator Alcatraz, as someone possibly not standing for the flag. Thank you.
All right, our last speaker for the public comment period is Susan Clark.
Yes, I'm Susan, or Susie Clark, and I didn't know I'd be able to speak. Thank you for letting me in. I do work as an assistant poll manager for East Piedmont, and as you know, I've spoken before that it's a bad location, not a good location. It's disenfranchising to many of the voters, the would-be voters who are in that area. You walk down a long hill, there's one space close by other than two handicapped to vote in. Sometimes you're walking past the homeless population who has never caused us any problem. But if you're an old person and you have to park nearby, they get a little bit scared. I have a good friend who lives there, and her friends say that they're not so happy with the location. So I know you're looking for another location for that. I know that's top. I did want to speak, though, regarding I wasn't there last time when Ms. Mosbacher got in as chair, but it was, from what I'm hearing, above board. And I don't know what their problem is, as I think a lot of them support a president who is a felon, president of the United States who does anything other than be transparent. We have no idea of his inner workings. I do want to support those who could be disenfranchised by cutting back on the early voting hours, the early voting days, and by keeping the elections on election day from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. It is exhausting. I am 72 years old, and the first time I did it, I thought I'd fall over, walk into the parking lot. It is a long day, but I think all the states in the country have the same thing, that that when you work there, it's the full 7 to 7. But thank you for your due diligence. Thank you for caring about Cobb County. Everything that I've seen has been above board, honest and fair elections. Thank you again for your time.
All right, that will conclude the public comment portion of the meeting, and I'll hand it back to the chair.
Thank you, Mr. White. The next item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes. Has the board had a chance to review the minutes? If we don't have any additions or changes, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I move we approve the draft minutes for July 15th, July 18th, and July 21st meetings.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second. Y'all are off mic.
Oh.
Y'all are both off mic.
Second. I'm always off mic when I second.
All right. We've got a motion and a second to approve the 3 minutes on our agenda here, and if we can go ahead and signify our votes. The motion carries. All 3 minutes pass 5-0. The next item on our agenda is old business. There is no old business before the board at this time, so we will move to new business. And the first item of new business is the matter of advance in-person voting schedule for the November 4th municipal election and special general election. I'm going to turn this over to Michael Dietrich.
Good afternoon, Board. Considering the circumstances, I'm going to ask to table this discussion to the September meeting. I have been able to have some conversations regarding this. However, there's still a lot more information that I need to decipher before I think we have a robust conversation. I spoke with our absentee division manager. We have a lot of things in the works, but I think it's better suited that we hold this until some more information comes up.
Thank you for that. Daniel, do we need to have a motion to table that then? Is it?
I think because it's an item that will ultimately need action, it's probably better just to table it. And,
Okay.
And so, yeah, if you'll get a motion in a second, then we can just put it back on next month.
Great. Is there a motion to table the AIP schedule?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
And is there any discussion? Great. We can take our vote. Debbie, did you
Pardon
want to?
me?
Did you want? Oh, did
Couldn't hear you. What did you?
Did you want to vote?
Sorry. Not really, but.
Thank you. The motion passes 5-0 to table the AIP schedule. The next item of new business is a proposed amendment to the Board of Elections and Registration bylaws concerning officer elections. This item was requested to be added by Ms. Fisher, and since this is her item, I will turn it over to her to present this to the board.
I will, this was posted on the website, so hopefully some of you in the audience did have a chance to read it. I have provided an amended version, however, of what was on the website, but did not get responses from anyone on the board concerning that. All of the amendments that I made to it were recommendations from our legal counsel. Thank you for all those very helpful comments. But to explain to a lot of people in the audience why I'm putting this forward is to make sure that what happened last month doesn't happen again and that it's clarified within our bylaws. Anyone who watched the meeting or heard my comments that day know that I interpret notwithstanding of whatever that last phrase in the bylaws was, I do believe Robert's rules takes over there, but it didn't, so I'm trying to codify it. Board member comments back, normally when we're considering a proposal, we have lively back and forth on email. I did not have any comments from the board, so hopefully we'll get some today. The reason for this amendment is basically to clarify what is currently in Article 4, Section B, under officers and terms, selection of officer and terms. The chair, vice chair, and secretary shall be selected in a manner prescribed by law and shall serve a term of 2 years or until their successor is duly appointed and qualified. Officers shall be elected at the regular July meeting in the odd number years unless otherwise necessary. That was language that was the only language that was in the bylaws. For the purposes of this section, otherwise necessary shall include but not be limited to I'm sorry, it helps if I put on my glasses. Size 10 font just doesn't work anymore. Officers shall be, for the purpose of this selection, otherwise necessary, shall include but not be limited to the delay of new board appointments, in which case the election shall not be held until all new appointments are made and duly seated. And B, a vacancy caused by resignation, removal, death, or disqualification of an officer, in which case an election shall be held until the next regular or specially called meeting to fill the unexpired term. Section 3. The selection of officers is solely within the discretion of the board and shall be accomplished by a nomination for each individual office, an election by a majority of the board. The manner in which the election shall be conducted shall be determined by a decision of the majority of the board. A majority vote is required. If no candidate receives a majority, the balloting shall be repeated until one candidate receives the required majority. Section 4. Further changes in board membership do not disrupt the continuity of officer terms. However, when changes are imminent or pending, officers' election should be deferred until the full board is properly constituted to ensure equitable participation in the selection of leadership. It's pretty straightforward. The language that was added actually is in Robert's rule. I did very little personal commentary, which is unusual.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. Is there any discussion on this item from the board?
Has a motion been made?
Oh, do we have a motion first? Is that?
I actually asked for a discussion since I got none via email.
Some items you can have discussion before you know, I think right now you would ask for clarification. Right now you can ask for their clarification or questions, and then you would ask for a motion, and then you could have debate and discussion again after the motion is made and seconded. But you can, if board members have comments now, you can ask for those.
I'm happy to call for a motion, but the odds of it passing without are slim and none. So I would like to hear from the rest of the board. Do you have changes? Do you agree with it? I mean, and then if it's proper, we'll delay a vote on it and a motion until next meeting when you can actually send your comments via email, and I'll make the changes.
Great, thank you. Do we have any questions or comments?
I would just like to say I disagree with the amendment. The text in the bylaws was actually adopted by the board 35 years ago. And we've lived with that text all this time and had no problems. We always elect officers at the July meeting. And so I disagree with the characterization of it as being unknown or new or surprise. So I will vote against the motion.
Mr. Burning, in your experience in the last 35 years, has there ever been a time when the delegation failed to do their duty and make appointments by the time, actually, they're supposed to be made by May 31st?
Remind everybody this, you can't disrupt the meeting.
Okay,
please.
well, I think what happened is unprecedented. And there's a lot of laws changed every single year. And why are they changed? For clarity. Because something that was put in 35 years ago, if there is no problem with it, then there probably is no need for a change. However, as we witnessed last month, I believe there is a problem with that, just having the language that exists today. But I appreciate your input.
Any additional questions?
Good afternoon. I don't have a question per se, and pardon me, I have a lingering bout of laryngitis that I'm battling through. I wouldn't say so much it's a question, but I think it's just based upon the 20 years of legal experience I have, as well as governance experience. And I think the concern here, and definitely the concern that I raised last month, was less about who was on the ballot and more about the process, in as much that these terms are for a 2-year period and would govern essentially during a period when 2 individuals were unknown at that time, and it just didn't seem appropriate. It's definitely not anything I've seen in my legal experience, serving on nonprofit boards, advising corporate boards, and for the most part, I would presume that those individuals that were going to serve would like to be considered. I do understand that last month, Mr. White, our counsel, made reference to the fact that a vote could subsequently be taken, once they are on the board, having been duly sworn in. It just did not seem appropriate. Less so about who, but process. And everyone knows I'm a stickler for process.
Any additional comments or questions?
I'll just make one comment. In line with what Steve said, I agree that in my experience, I don't remember seeing appointments made late. However, I feel like the board shouldn't be tied to our duties based on what an outside entity is doing. So we have it prescribed in our bylaws to do it at a certain schedule, so we'll do that. We can't control what outside groups are doing, but we will do it according to what our bylaws state we should do. And we also have the freedom to hold elections anytime we want. So if we hold an election in July and the board decides a year from now we want an election, there's nothing that stops us from doing that. So I'm going to vote no, only because I don't really see that this amendment is necessary.
Thank you, Stacy. Do we have a motion for this amendment?
No, I believe that I will postpone a motion to approve this until we have 2 new board members seated. I am sure that those 2 new board members would appreciate the opportunity to have this clarified and to also vote for who will be serving as our officers for the 2 years, their first 2 years. So no, I will not be putting forward a motion to approve. I will bring it back next month.
With that, I think we do need a motion to table, though, if you're planning to bring it back.
What am I tabling? This was on the agenda for discussion.
It's actually under as a proposed amendment to the bylaw, which is an action item.
Okay. I propose that we table this proposal until next meeting when the other 2 officers are duly seated and sworn in.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second to table Ms. Fisher's amendment to the bylaws. If everybody can cast their votes. And the motion passes 5-0, and we will see this next month. Thank you. The final item of new business today is the appointment of an acting director per Bylaws, Article 7, Section 1A4, due to a planned continuing absence of the director. This item has been put on the agenda because Director Fall has requested that her leave begin. And in light of Director Fall's planned continuing absence, I would ask for a motion to approve Michael Dietrich as our acting director. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Tori. And is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded that the board approve Michael Dietrich as acting director. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we can cast our votes, please. And the motion to appoint Michael Dietrich as the acting director passes 5-0. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is the election office reports and updates, and I will ask Michael to present this section to our board.
Good afternoon again. Kind of the same spiel again, considering the circumstances. The update today will be coming from our registration division manager, Melissa Miller. She wants to give an update on redistricting and the NGE mailer.
Manager. Provide you an update on redistricting. The city of Marietta has been redistricted and it is complete. It's approximately 45,000 voters that's been affected. We've sent the list of electors as well as the street list to the city of Marietta to verify for us, and once they verify it, then we'll work on the process of notifying the voters. Any questions?
Did we give them a deadline to get back to us on that so we can get the voter ID cards out in a timely manner?
Yes, we gave until the end of August.
Okay.
It took us approximately 2 weeks to complete, so I gave them 2 weeks to verify as well.
Okay.
Okay. And then next, I will talk about the NGE mailer that we sent out for no activity for 2 general elections. The notifications were mailed out July the 11th to approximately 37,206 voters. Responses returned. We only received 1 response back for moved out of state. We received 20 that still reside in Cobb. Then we received 18 with voter not at this address. Most of what we've received back has just been returned undeliverable mail. So far, we've received 7,780 with no forwarding address from the post office and 107 back with a forwarding address from the post office. The NGE clock is still ticking down. We have 2 more days. And then once that clock expires, the voters will be canceled on August 20th. There's approximately a little bit over 37,000 voters that will be canceled in the system. Any questions?
Thank you, I appreciate that. Can you explain, we have a good crowd today, can you explain what canceled in the system means and sort of the difference between the different statuses that a voter is in the Jarvis system for everybody?
Okay, canceled mean they will be ineligible to vote and they will need to reapply. For NGE, the statuses are cross-state, national change of address, you have no contact, you have returned mail, and they've been inactive for 2 general elections. So 22 and 24, they've been inactive. We've had no contact with them for those 2 years. And so at that point this year, the state sent out a confirmation notice. One last final confirmation notice. So when they started those processes for cross-state, national change of address, no contact, return mail, they were all sent confirmation notices to begin the process. No response. So then they went to an inactive status. And so they're still inactive 2 general elections later. And so they will be canceled out of the system on August 20th.
And this would require those voters to re-register if they wanted
Correct.
to vote. So, great. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Does anybody have any other questions for Melissa? Great.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. And Michael, you'll get us those slides? Yes. Thanks. So we now will move to the board member comments section of our meeting here. And today I think we're going to go left to right. We'll start with Tori and then we'll proceed down the line for comments.
Have a leading a mic today. It is much that, again, I've got laryngitis, but I think it's a bit fortuitous that I'm not sitting 2 seats to the left, because if I was, I probably wouldn't have a voice at this point. But I think most of you know that today is my final meeting in service to our community as a member of the Cobb County Board of Elections. So thank you for coming to my going away party, and that of Steve's as well. I will say I am deeply grateful for the opportunity to have served the voters of our county and the community that I love. Unlike some of you, I haven't been here for 20, 30, 40 years, but I did relocate to Cobb County for the first time in 1996 when I graduated from Georgia Tech. I will say, from the first day that I stood before you all, the voters of this community have been my central focus, and my mission is today, as it was then, to serve voters and to serve with integrity, professionalism, a high standard of legal ethics, as well as fairness. I note that I was elected twice unanimously by my fellow board members, once in 2021 upon immediately when I joined the board, and then again in 2023. Together, we all navigated 2 challenging major elections, as well as many smaller elections, 5, as you all have noted, in the last 6 months. These elections have come at a time of heightened polarization, unlike anything I've seen in the 51 years I've been on this earth. And despite those challenges that we face, the missteps that the office had, and we had them, despite the transitions in leadership and staff, I, in my leadership of this board, remain focused on one guiding principle, and that is what best serves Cobb County voters. We've worked collectively as a board together, and I've served with honesty and integrity, acknowledging our challenges and moving quickly forward to identify solutions to resolve those problems. As I shared earlier, I brought to this role more than 20 years of legal experience, as well as a strong foundation in governance, and I think that that was well suited given the amount of litigation that the board has had to navigate. Those skills were critical in assisting in that navigation and in presiding over these meetings in a way that was professional and even-handed. There were times when public discourse, and at moments even the conduct of this board, fell short of civility, but throughout I remained grounded in the hallmarks of my profession: integrity, high ethical standards, dignity, respect for myself, respect for others, and respect for process, as well as decorum. So I am grateful, first, to the Cobb Legislative Delegation for appointing me to the role. I thank the Cobb County Board of Commissioners for the opportunity to serve alongside them during a time of significant change. I also want to recognize some members of Cobb County leadership. County Manager Dr. Jackie McMorris, as well as Dr. Jatan Gibson. They provided insight to county practices and provided a serving as a steady partner. Kimberly Limley, who leads the IT function within the county, models leadership consistently and served as, and continues to serve as, a tremendous partner to the elections office. I believe I saw him earlier, Ross Cavett. He helped us communicate clearly and effectively with the public, as well as Jim Harner in the Cobb County HR department. They are another group of just tremendous county partners. I extend also my deep gratitude and appreciation for Sheriff Craig Owens and his deputies, whose presence and professionalism provided security and reassurance during times when tensions were high and when we had legitimate security concerns. I also thank our board counsel, Daniel White, and his predecessor, Greg Litchfield, who helped guide the board and me in my service as chair. I want to recognize and thank the dedicated members of our office. And I say our office because I continue to be a Cobb County voter and will remain as such. We endured some late nights, some early mornings, ups and downs. We navigated a lot of transitions, difficult circumstances, evolving landscape of the new laws that have essentially reshaped election administration in our state. Through it all, you all have remained diligently and steadfastly committed in your service to Cobb voters and the electoral process. I applaud you, and I continue to hope that you continue to have Cobb voters as your North Star, and congratulations, Michael, on your acting director role. Lastly, I thank the Cobb County voters. It's actually been my honor, absolutely my honor, to do this work in service to each of you. I want to emphasize one final truth, and I've heard it earlier, but the administration of elections is not partisan. The only aspect of elections that's partisan is when a voter makes their choice when they cast that ballot. Every action, every rule, every process, every count, every decision that happens prior to that and happens after that is all nonpartisan. So with today being my final day standing before you in this role, I want you to be certain that I will continue to serve our community and I will advocate for voting rights for all citizens. And in doing so, it underscores the fact that that work for me did not begin when I got on this board, nor will it end when I leave. So thank y'all.
Thank you. Stacy?
Just to be very quick, I want to thank both Ms. Silas and Mr. Bruning for serving. I now understand this is not an easy job. It comes with a lot of personal sacrifice, and thank you, and you're now going to have a lot of free time that you have to decide what to do with.
Thank you. Steve?
I'd just like to concur with the comments that Tori made, to thank the Cobb legislative delegation for the opportunity to serve on this board, and for the county administration for supporting us throughout the years. It's been quite a change. I was on the board 30 some odd years ago, and we met in the library over on Roswell Street, and if there were public comments, I don't remember them. So, and rarely did a meeting go over 30 minutes. So it's a different world now, and I've enjoyed these last 4 years. On the other hand, I will enjoy getting back into retirement. So thank you all very much.
Debbie?
First, I would like to thank Ms. Silas for her honorable service on this board. Politically, we have our differences, and sometimes it's been quite lively. However, the entire time since I got sworn in on this board, which is 2 years, the only thing I've ever witnessed is for her to govern with fairness, transparency, and with honor. She always kept everyone up to date, and that wasn't, she may have picked up the phone and called each of us individually, but she always provided a summary conclusion. She always discussed anything that was coming up on the agenda and set some basic rules of engagement, and we always discussed things prior to a meeting to make sure everyone was on board. With that, I really thank you, Tori, for serving honorably. I am going to greatly miss your guidance on this board. It has been fair and it's been steady. And Steve, I thank you for your service, both the first time you served on this board, the second time you served on this board. And I don't think people understand the difference between the old way of elections and the new way. A lot of things about elections are not the same. And as a result, I think we get where we are today. And with that, I'm going to get into the meat of comments that I rewrote 3 times, and if I had an opportunity to rewrite during this meeting, I would be, because I do want to raise the issue about 3 principles that should guide every single decision made by this Board of Elections: integrity, honesty, and transparency. These are not optional values. They're essential to ensuring that voters can trust in the fairness of the electoral process. When this board conducts itself honorably, that gives voters confidence that their voices and their votes matter. But when members engage in questionable actions, especially matters as significant as the election of their own offices, that confidence is shaken, as evidenced by comments made today. And once a voter's trust is lost, that is not something that is easily restored. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions. Yes, the bylaws have been there for 35 years and said the same thing. Yes, what happened last month was legally acceptable, but what it wasn't, it was not a protocol that we practiced since I started on this board. Self-admittedly, our new chair did say that the three of them had gotten together and decided to hold this election without notifying. Now, she didn't claim this, but Tori nor myself nor our legal counsel knew anything about this agenda item that was going to be added. And if you all think that falls under transparent and fair, I have no words. There also was no proper notice for all of you in the audience, no matter what side of the aisle you sit on. There should always be proper notice of something major coming before the board, but especially for elections. Let me be clear. When board members manipulate their own officer elections for personal or partisan gain, they're not only violating the oath they took, but they're inviting the spirit of the laws. They are violating your trust that we were sworn to provide you. The damage to voter confidence is immediate and long-lasting. I ask, if this board can't handle their own leadership in election with integrity, why should we trust that they can handle yours? Georgia law is also clear on the ethical standards that every single person who serves, whether it's by appointment or by election. OCG 4510-3, the Code of Ethics that is for all community service. One of the things that it identifies is put loyalty to moral principles above loyalty to personal interest or party interest. Uphold the law to the highest degree. Expose corruption. Avoid conflicts that may interfere with performing your duties. These are ethical obligations, are not mere suggestions. They're binding principles that we swear to uphold. The integrity of our election depends not just on machines, not on paper ballots or the laws. It depends on the character of the people entrusted to oversee them. Each of us has a duty and responsibility to rise above partisanship and put aside any kind of personal ambition and to demonstrate that we value your trust more than we do our own power. The solution is twofold. We must correct what happened last month by disallowing two people who will be serving on this board for 4 years the ability to vote for themselves if they should put themselves forward for an office or position. The second thing, we must amend these bylaws to clarify what was vague, and anybody that reads laws or rules must interpret that they were vague, The only thing they outlined was the timing of the election, not the protocol. It's time for this board to prove to the public that its loyalty is not to the party, not to personal partisanship, but to the people of Cobb County, and I would ask you to do just that.
Thank you, Debbie. I'm going to take a quick minute here to recognize and thank both Steve and Tori. Your service has been tireless to this board and to the voters of Cobb County. Your dedication, hard work, and commitment to fair and transparent elections have made a meaningful impact. And thank you for your time, energy, and the care you've given in service to our community. This concludes the business portion of today's meeting.
Madam Chair.
Excuse me, we're moving on. Yes,
Well, I do have a question because I thought.
This isn't a time for questions.
It's not debate, Debbie. We've had comments.
Well, no, but we were supposed to get an update, but that was on the agenda and discussed, and I believe we skipped over it, and I just realized it.
On what?
On the agenda today, we were supposed to get an update that was laid over from last month from Tammy, I believe, on the communication plan due to her unfortunate illness, not being able to make it. That was tabled until this meeting. So if she is here and she was prepared, I think it's our duty to allow her to speak and provide her.
The director manages those division updates, and I believe that Michael said that Melissa was who was presenting today, so in the transition, maybe that got lost in the shuffle, but we can certainly pick that up next time.
Having presided, pardon, may I, Madam Chair? Having presided over the meeting and worked with Director Fall, it was something that was supposed to be part of the division updates. We don't list out, or we've never had the process of listing out the division updates by division. It was just one header. So
Tammy,
you're understood, but I think we're going to move on now. Those were the division updates that were available for today.
Okay, that's the
So
fairness
thank you.
and transparency I was talking about.
You can, yeah, sure. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, I can add a little more to that. I was the one that requested that we table that portion. I know she was supposed to present at the last meeting. However, in light of the recent developments, I believe that it would be more appropriate for her to present to the new board because the topics that she was going to discuss is pertinent to them and how we do business from the communication side. So I was the one that requested that Tammy wait until the new board at the next meeting.
Thank you, Michael. So once again, this concludes that business portion of today's meeting. Mr. White, do we have a need for executive session today?
I believe I have a very brief litigation update, and I think there's a need to discuss personnel matters.
Great, thank you. Do we have a motion to go into executive session?
I move that we move into executive session for discussion of legal issues as well as personnel matters.
Great, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, and if we can cast our votes, please. The motion carries 5-0. We are now in executive session, and we ask that everyone leave the room for this time. There's only a few remaining items on the agenda after executive session, and you are welcome to return once we have concluded that. Thank you so much.